Okay, and welcome to Glenelg Football Club's Tiger TV. I'm your host, Tony Symonds, and today I've got with me one of the real greats of the Glenelg Football Club, presently chairman of the Past Players and Officials Association, Mr. Laurie Rosewarne. How are you, Laurie?
Good, thanks, Tone. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you. Great to see you. Now, Laurie, where do we start? It's been such a journey. 169 games for Glenelg, I think I'm right here, from might have been 65 to 73, 18 goals throughout that time, played a number of positions. Tell us about your footy career, Laurie.
Yeah, well, I first started at Plimpton, lived at Brayville it was called then, but it's now Plimpton Park. So I first started my junior footy there, and my dad got me down here in 1963 when I was 15 to play under 17s, and it just went on from there. I wanted to go to South Adelaide because my dad played for South. He played here for 1 year, but then played for South in some premierships and was a very good player, a state player. But I came here and I'm glad I did. I loved it.
Well, I think we're all glad you did. Now, you just touched on it, but I think you had a father that played here, an uncle, a brother.
Yes, two brothers.
Two brothers. Tell us briefly about them. I think they all pretty much played league football or close to it.
Yeah, Jeff played one league game. Cliff didn't play any. Dad played only the one season, topped the goal kicking that year. Kicked 78 goals, I think, which is pretty good. It kicked 11 goals in his first game as a Rover.
Oh, that'll do.
Yeah, that was a fair start. But then he had to get cleared to South because he wasn't in their area. He just thought he was in the area because Uncle Reg and Uncle Fred both played down here as well. So.
Okay. Tell us a bit more about your own career. I know you're always a bit slow, unlike myself, to talk about yourself, but you played a variety of positions, back pocket, wing that I know of. Because alarmingly, Laurie, you only kicked 18 goals in your career, and really that's not a lot for 169 games.
No.
So tell us where you played.
Okay, well, I started at half forward flank. I played a game, an end of season game, Coca-Cola Cup, I think it was called, out at Theberton when I was 17, and then I played the following year under Fitzy in 65 and 66, and then of course Curls came down in 67. I continued playing, but I played half forward in that first game, and then I played on a wing for many years. And I played in the centre when in the mid or 67, 68. I remember Rocker Redford and I were the two that vying for centre, and we had a trial game down at Christie's Beach, and Rocker said, "You're not getting this centre position," and he cleaned me up just after half time. And anyway, I got the centre and he got the back pocket. So yeah.
I actually saw Rocker Redford last week at the Streaky Bay races of all things.
Yeah, you probably would.
Had a beer with him and said g'day. He was one of the real characters. There was a lot of characters around when you played, Laurie.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been one of them, I would have thought.
He definitely was, a real character. I remember the day on his 21st birthday, he broke his leg out at Prospect. And he's getting carried off in the stretcher and he's waving to the crowd and giving the thumbs up and everything. And went to hospital, had his leg set, booked himself out of hospital about 10:30, came to his party. Some of the boys took him back to the hospital after that, but yeah, he was a real character. Who
else was around in those days that made some sort of impression on you?
Colin Richards. Colin Richards took me under his wing really when I was a young fella at 17, and he was really good to me. He led me around and training and all that sort of stuff, and he was excellent. Brian McGowan was a terrific bloke. Came over from South Melbourne. He lent me a car to do my driving test in, a brand new little Morris, one of those little cars that used to float when you put the brake on. Yeah, so that was very nice of him. He drove me to the police station. I did my test, passed my test, and yeah, that was very good. But Colin Rice, he was another fantastic, great player. But then, of course, I played with your Marcuses and your Phyllises and the Cornses.
There's a few stories there we probably can't get into.
Yeah, no, we'd probably leave them out, I think.
Highwood.
Yeah, Highwood. Yeah.
All of those blokes.
Yeah, there were some characters in there.
So I suppose we should ask you a number of coaches, but predominantly Curls. Neil Kelly.
Well, I only had two.
Yeah. He was one of the best and a great fella.
Yeah, Len Fitzgerald was a fantastic teacher, but the discipline wasn't great, unfortunately. But when Curls came, well, that's when the discipline and we became a footy club then, not a social club, and it was really fantastic.
Did he sort of intimidate you a bit to play well, Laurie, at times?
Well, he intimidated us on the first night. He turned up suntanned, quarter-inch haircut, absolute ball of muscle, fit as a fiddle. We went out on this oval here that we're looking at now, and we did some stations of burpees and shuttle runs and sit-ups and press-ups and all that sort of stuff. Stinking hot night. We did this for about an hour, and then he said, we'll go for a swim. So we went in the change rooms. People tried to get this stuff ready to get in their cars. He said, no, we're going to run down the Broadway. So we ran to the Broadway, quick story, ran from the Broadway, had to swim the pad. If you couldn't swim, you had to run around the lock. Yep. And then we went all the way down the West Beach Sandhills, and he said, okay, he said, we're going to go through these sandhills now. And I said, oh, crikey, I hate sandhills. Anyway, he said, no, we won't do that tonight. So we're running back, and there was 160 odd at training.
Really?
Because Glenelg had invited everyone out, because Curly was coming. And we got back to the Broadway. I was in the main group because Dennis Johnson and I had worked really hard together on our fitness. And we got back there, and he said, okay, you have a swim now. And he just jogged off. That was the Monday night. Wednesday night he came out. There were 62 players out, and I'll never forget. He went, we sorted some wheat from the chaff. We'll get down to some serious training now. He said
it was a battle of survival.
Oh,
it still is to this day, really.
Yeah,
in league football. Laurie, 1973. You're a big part and vice captain of the side on our second ever premiership.
Yep.
You didn't end up playing due to different circumstances. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I tore a hamstring against Port in the second semi-final, and just didn't come up. I played the next week, but Curl wouldn't risk me, and it's probably a good job he didn't, because Bob Tardif went down early.
Yeah.
And so if I had gone down as well, we would have only had the 18 players. So I didn't accept it all that well initially on the day, but in contemplating it, I thought, well, it's definitely the right thing to do. And I played the next week against Richmond and Scottsdale in the Champions.
Yeah, you would have been the only, you would have been the most sober bloke out of the lot of them, just about. They would have gone pretty hard that week, I would have thought, Richmond and the Glenelg guys.
It was amazing. I
was there as a young kid.
Yeah.
I went there and I couldn't believe the Guernsey they made you.
Oh, they Canary.
Of all the things Harry Kernahan did right, I believe he tossed the coin for the rights to win the Guernsey over the phone.
Yeah,
he trusted a Victorian.
Yeah, how could you do that?
You don't do that.
Don't do that.
That would have been a great experience to play those guys, Laurie.
It was, yeah, it was. I stood Kevin Sheedy for a bit and Francis Burke, two really good players and great blokes. We had a show afterwards with them and became good friends with both of them, and kept in touch with them over the years. But it was. Sheedy started a fight and hit Bomber Hamilton, and we sort of lost the plot there.
Bomber
was
a fairly popular guy too,
he
so
was
you
very
wouldn't have picked
popular
on him. But
yeah.
I think I always thought, Laurie, it's amazing to go through the disappointment of missing out on that grand final, yet to still be involved with the club for 40 years since. Just says so much. And a lot of people couldn't do that and wouldn't do that, but you've never missed a beat.
No.
And I suppose when you look at it, there's not many positions around the footy club you haven't had. You've been on the board, you've been the general manager of the football club.
Yep.
You've been on management committees. You're presently chairman of the Past Players and Officials Association. If I was Bill Holst, who's been timekeeper for about 50 years, I'd be a bit nervous if I was him, because you'd be eyeing that job off, I reckon, wouldn't you?
No, I don't think so. Billy does a great job of that, has been doing it for 50 years. So no, he's a great bloke, Billy Holst.
But what's the secret to staying involved in a footy club for 50 years, as well as being inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as being inducted as a great of Glenelg? What's the key to that?
Just the love of the club, mate. I just love this club. We had some great success when I was general manager and when I was youth coaching director, and as a player played in grand finals. We played in 14 grand finals in 21 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we only won 3 of them, and we should have won a couple of others against Port in the late 80s and 90s, early 90s, but unfortunately we didn't. So, we were a great club, and we still are a great club. We just need to have a bit more success out here on this field, and I'm sure we'll get back to where we were.
Was one of the hardest periods for you being general manager when we went top in 1986 and you were the general manager and you had to keep an eye on blokes like me?
Yep.
Was that hard?
Nah. Wasn't as hard as Harry. Poor old Harry put up with a lot more than me.
We were all starting to mature a bit by that stage.
I took over in 87. You guys had won a premiership the year before, and you had calmed down a bit, but that magnificent 7 that used to congregate in the club, great bunch of boys. Still know every one of you, and my job was easy.
Now, Laurie, today's footy, I know you come to nearly all the home games, if not all of them.
Yep.
What's your opinion on current day footy? It's a lot different to how we played. You got what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm a bit cynical about it. Really, this zoning and not standing players and not being on a player, I can't fathom that. I know they run and I know they work hard and they
team defence
and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we stood a player. We started on him and we finished on him, and I stood guys like Robin and Backman and Cale and Ebert and all these players, and you're on him all day.
You always knew where your responsibility lied.
That's exactly right.
I do notice a lot in footy these days, blokes are pointing at each other and looking a bit like, well, whose man's that? Mm-hmm. The way they play it these days, it's everyone's man, but it does abrogate some of the responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, in our day it was just totally different. We just stood a player and he was our player for the day.
Now, I asked a couple of guys the other week if you could stand in front of the players for a couple of minutes this week before the first game, what advice would you give them, and what would you say to them?
Well, to be honest, excuse me, I just think the skills level needs to be improved in our club here, and I know that Matt's been working on that hard and with other people, but we seem to turn the ball over too often. So I'd be saying to them, use your skills, mate. You've got time. You don't have to rush things. That's what I think they do too often. They rush it instead of using the time.
Could be a lack of talk or communication.
Lack of communication, but not only that, I just think they panic a bit when they get the footy, so they just need to know that they've got a bit more time. Yep. I think that's important.
And use it.
And use it properly, because our best is really good. We tied with Sturt at the end of last year, and they went premiers, so we really do have
we're not that
some
far
good
away.
Players. No, we're not far away, but we just keep making those silly errors that cost us 3 or 4, 5 quick goals, and the game's over.
Well, I'm sure the boys will have a look at it this week before the game. They wouldn't want to miss an interview of this calibre. And I just want to say what a pleasure it is having one of the greats of Glenelg Football Club, Laurie Rosewarne, here. He's done it all. He's been around for 50-odd years. And Laurie, we love you here, and thanks for taking the time out to be on Tiger TV.
No worries, Simon. My pleasure. Thanks, mate.